All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Truth on the Houndsman XP Podcast Network. And today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by my friend, Mr. Bobby Merchant. I got him all tangled up in the cords right there. We just got done hunting, Bobby. We had a pretty good hunt.
Yeah. Trixie treated a couple coons.
Yeah, short and sweet. That's the way we like it.
Yeah.
But you come down, we're at camp. We're getting ready for the super hunt. Bobby come down to pleasure hunt with me tonight. And we got done pleasure hunting, and against his better judgment, I got him conned into sitting down here in front of the microphone.
Yeah, just for the record, as long as you promise to edit all the stupid stuff out, we're good to go.
Well, your best bet is to not say anything stupid, Bobby. But one of the reasons I want to sit down with you, and of course we hunted Trixie tonight, and you've had and are known for starting pups, and I get guys on here all the time that are winning world championships and they're national champions and all that stuff, but a lot of them aren't the best pup men. I mean, to be honest, and they know it too. You know, it's not something like they're hiding it. You know, but we get a lot of questions, pup training questions, how we do this, how we do that, and me and you have been talking tonight while we've been hunting, and of course we spoke before about some of the pups, and I just kind of wanted to touch on that, but you know, we can talk about a little bit of everything, but let's start with Trixie. Trixie's won. What's she got one now? 30,000?
No, right at 50.
50,000.
Yeah.
So you and Justin Caldwell on her together, right?
Right.
And you started her as a baby pup.
I bought her. You know, at that point I had never met Jed, but I was obviously aware.
Are you regretting it now?
Somewhat. I mean, be honest, right?
That's right. This is the truth.
So one day we got a local Facebook page here, and there's a trader pup on there. 4-month-old trader pup. And of course I'd wanted one, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, and thinking about Iowa, well, here's one in my backyard. So I called a friend, Wesley Roscoe, who lived around the corner from that guy. And anyway, I went over there and looked at her and bought her, and, you know, here we are,
yeah.
six years later.
Yeah, I guess they are that old now.
Yeah, she'll be 6 in April.
They get old fast, don't they?
Yeah.
The good ones do.
Yeah.
The sorry ones like Duds, it seems like they just linger around forever.
You know, I'd like to have those first 3 years back, but
yeah, and we were talking about that.
Those were the good years.
Yeah. Well, it ain't like she's been a slouch here lately. I judged her down here just 3 weeks ago, and she looked good 2 of those 3 nights, real good, and was in it at the very end against some good competition too.
Well, yeah, she, you know, the first 3 years of her life, she didn't need a break. She made her breaks, and now she needs a break.
Yeah.
You know, she needs a little luck. The coons need to be moving.
What was she like when you first got her home at 4 months old?
Wild.
Was she?
Bad wild.
Like how bad?
Like, so I'm a pretty clean freak. My kennels are always clean, you know. So every day I take those dogs out, put them on a chain, clean their kennel, put them up, whatever. Every day for 4 months. She'd turn over, flip over. I
Really?
mean, just crazy. Well, to this day, she's still not real bright. But, you know, I accuse her of having the Finley breeding, so it kind of goes with the territory.
Look where she come from.
Yeah.
You can't blame her.
Kind of goes with the territory.
When you started hunting her, did you take her hunting immediately, or did you give her a little bit to adjust?
No, I raised her up, and 6 months or so, like I do, I started showing her just a time or two. I will show a dog a cage coon. Yeah. I want the dogs that I start, I want them to know what, you know, the smell of a coon. I want them to know what they're after. You know, I got friends who don't, and they're frustrated when dogs trash. But anyway, there's no right or wrong way. It's just what I like to do. Yeah. So at 6 months old, I started showing her a cage coon just a few times, and then started taking her along. And at 9 months old, she was singled out. Yeah, treating her own coons. And
did she? Those first night in the woods, did you turn her loose with some dogs? I assume. Did she always go hunting pretty good?
Yes. Yeah. From the first night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. From what I've seen of a lot of the trader dogs, she's out of Ralph. You know, she's a grand pup to trader, and Ralph reproduced pretty well. We didn't breed him very much, but it seemed like, and Trixie never seemed to do this. They start running and treeing early. They start early. They're easy, quick starters, and then they hit a real bad lull where they want to stay on the ground too much from a year to 2 years. And that's usually when Finley gets good deals on them and buys them back. But Trixie never did really do that, did she?
No, but I got to thinking, even Justin and I got to talking a while back. The first 3 years of her life, those years were wet years.
Yeah.
And she never experienced a dry summer.
Yeah.
But like now, this past summer, I mean, it was worthless to take her hunting, really. You know, not only did age catch up with her, and she's half sour, you know, and don't like to haul, and all the things that we know that the older dogs, some or most probably do, but I don't know. Those first 3 years were a lot of fun.
Yeah. When did you know you had something special?
So the first time I met Jed, I went to the Spring Super Steak, and I met him there. I went up to him and told him that I had a Ralph puppy that I thought was pretty special. And at that time, she was probably 10, 11 months old.
Yeah.
You know, getting close to a year old. But
did Jed act like he believed you?
No. No, he blew me off. Jerk. You know, I got to tell you, this is the truth. And we kind of talked about it a little bit tonight. You know, maybe Jed has simmered down a little bit in his older age. But I'd never thought that Jed would be a guy that I would enjoy being around. And I absolutely enjoy him now. Matter of fact, he sent me a puppy down here the other day that he and I and Justin are going to be partners on. So,
I know. The first time I met him, I don't know if you've heard this story or not, I wanted to strangle this guy.
Yeah, of course.
You know, he shows up, 10 minutes later, he's going to buy my dog, whether I liked it or not. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that with him. And, you know, like he already owned the thing. I said, well, I don't need the money. I need the dog. And then next thing you know, 10 years later, you know, we're best friends and, you know, we're hanging out. So I agree he's an acquired taste.
He was down here a bunch, you know, this winter, I guess, this fall for the Lone Star and all the different hunts. He stayed and he come over and hunted with Justin and I a time or two, and it's always an adventure.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I know. So Trixie was 10 months old then at Super Stakes. And the next year, would that be her first Super Stakes year?
We never took her until she was a junior.
Yeah.
And she won a lot of casts, never doubled up, you know. Clam took her the first year for me.
Yeah, well, there's your problem.
Well, if Jason was here with us tonight, he would tell you he scored like 650 or something in the early round, and that's the first time he had ever hunted her.
Yeah.
And he was probably a little confident, and she left a tree or two or something late round, you know.
What was she always kind of tight on the ground?
Yeah.
Fall tree type dog?
Yeah, 2 or 3 barks in the tree.
Yeah, because I know some of them, Shock, for instance, was wide open when he was younger. Bella was wide open when she was younger. Scent barked quite a bit when she was young, but as they got older, they just shut all that off.
Yeah.
But Trixie never did do that.
No, she was always pretty tight.
What, did you and Caldwell always own her?
No, Justin came, you know, Justin and I have been friends for a lot of years. I remember when I was shooting horses on a ranch, the first time I met Justin, he was working on that ranch. And we've been friends since then. And, you know, Justin's on and off.
Yep.
You know, of course, his work schedule's crazy. He'll be in Taiwan for a year.
Yeah,
and
I called him here a while back, and he called me back like 2 weeks later. He goes, "Oh, don't worry, I was in China."
Yeah. No, he, it's funny, during COVID, like, COVID comes from China.
Yep.
And Caldwell goes to China right when it all started. So.
He's probably who brought it back brought it back to Texas.
Oh, that boy.
When did so how old was she when Caldwell bought into her?
You know, she was starting to win, you know, quite a bit, and I'm never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm staying around Leon County, you know.
Yeah.
This is just me. This is home.
Yeah.
I'm a homeboy. So he come to me and he wanted to put her in some hunts, so that's how that happened.
Yeah. Well, I know because I'd heard tell of her. Jed had told me about her, and you know, she's real nice. She's real nice, and I never seen her go until the Lone Star 5000 or the Lone Star Shootout. Yeah. And I judged her in that semifinal cast.
Yeah.
And I told Jed, I said, you know, that's a pretty dang good dog.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And what was neat about that, Ward and Weed, I didn't. Justin hunted her, so I guided a cast for that deal for Jed, you know, and semifinal, I took Weed to a place that he'd win. He's won a ton out of the Rainbow Ranch. I mean, he's probably won more money out of that ranch than anybody. And Ward walked with us, and we had a lot of fun. Anyway, we got the text that Justin had won. You know, he had texted me that he'd won towards the end of that, and them guys were just as happy for me as I was. You know.
Yeah. No, and it's That's the way it is at them bigger money events, it seems like. 99% of them guys are rooting for everybody else, and they're there to win. They're going to beat your brakes off if they get a chance.
Yeah, right.
But Trixie, when you started her, and you seen you had something special, did you change the way that you did anything with her, as far as this is a dog that could win a lot of money versus just another good coon dog?
I wasn't smart enough, Josh. So, I mean, I've fooled with hounds my whole life, but the competition deal is only about the last 12 years probably. So she taught me a lot about what I needed, what it takes to win, and obviously there's a lot of room for improvement there.
Yeah.
We're all looking for the next one, but no, I didn't do anything different. I just hunted her.
Yeah. What'd you have before Trixie?
Probably the best dog that I had at that point was a little dog named Ree. Justin hunted a dog named Boomer. I don't know. You remember that dog?
I think so, yeah.
He was a wild, crazy, blow out of the world kind of dog. But whenever you got to him, he had a coon, So he was a dog. Noah owned the dog. Noah Powell owned the dog. Justin hunted the dog. And we bred a gyp to her, and Ree was a puppy out of that dog. And she was a real nice hound. And matter of fact, I think if I had a dog, because she was hunter strike dog anytime you wanted it, you know, and six was never going to get her. If I had her now, knowing now, if I knew that back then, she probably could have won a lot of money.
How'd you even get started in the hounds at all?
Well, I grew up with a boy, and his dad had red bones.
Yeah.
And
I'm surprised that didn't break you.
Well, at that time we were kids, and Johnny Petronella, you've seen him at the Lone Star for 100 years. He's one of the founders.
Yep.
When we were kids, he'd take us, and back then it was just driving, see a creek or something on the side of the road, you just pull over and hunt, So Johnny was really Mr. Lee and my friend Butch, and Johnny was probably responsible for this mess that.
Did your dad or grandpa or uncles or anybody?
No, my dad tell the stories of coon dogs that they had when they were kids, but no, my dad never took me.
Because East Texas is, and we've talked about that, we beat that horse to death on this podcast. It's such a unique place as far as the amount of houndsmen, how many good houndsmen there are. And because, you look right around here, there's you and Caldwell and Joe and Cole and Clom, and I'm going to throw Chance Lynch in there, and Chris Collins, and all these guys that, have won at a really high level at a lot of different areas, and they're all just right here.
Yeah, there's a lot of good houndsmen around here. And, speaking of Chris, we've been talking about puppies all night. Chris is that guy. He's always hunting his stuff, starting his pups, and does a really good job with them.
Yeah. Well, Jed's going to hear that. And he'd be like, I told you to turn your phone off. You always gripe at me. So I'm going to hit this on silence.
Jed's busy right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. He needs to be hunting one of them dogs. I got to go down and win a truck, and I ain't got time to hunt one of them. My truck is full when I come down here. I got the truck pro sport hunt I got to get ready for. But how'd you learn how to start the pups? Was it just kind of an instinct thing, as you've been around dogs, as you got older and you seen what worked, or did you have any tutelage?
Well, I'll tell you, I grew up in the racehorse business.
Yeah.
And my father-in-law was probably as good a hand as there was with young horses. His specialty was 2-year-old futurity horses.
Yeah.
And, of course, I grew up before he became my father-in-law. Obviously, I worked for him as a kid, and it's interesting. A lot of the things that I learned from those horses, prepping horses, pointing horses for particular races.
Really?
I still do that right now. Like when I'm going towards a big hunt with Trixie, I hunt her, and Justin comes in and takes her to the hunts. But I use some of them same methods that I learned early on in life, fooling with those horses, and they translate right on into these dogs.
What's an example of that?
Well, just like in my opinion, this is just my opinion. These houndsmen listening to this may think I'm an idiot, but I don't think you can keep a dog at his peak for long periods of time.
No, I agree.
So what I like to do is let a dog, after a big hunt, let him have a little time off.
Yeah. And
then build them back up and try to get them to peak whenever that hunt's going to be, And the good thing about these hunts is we know when they're going to be, right? Yep. It's not like going to an open hunt. Well, I think I'm going to run down here this weekend and hunt here.
Yeah.
We know when the date's going to be. So I try to, as far as, vitamins and different things, I try to get that dog to be peaked at that particular time.
Physically?
Yeah, physically.
Yeah. That makes sense. I never really have thought about it. Of course, I told you tonight how much I hate horses.
Yeah, well, mentally, I can't. That dog that I have, there's no mental.
If you figure out the mentally part, let me know, because I want to know too.
When you're an idiot, you're an idiot. So that is what she is.
Well, that is interesting, and I never really thought of it like that. Because what we do a lot of times is, and you're right, dogs are streaky. They're so streaky, especially now that, you look down here, it was dry all summer, and it's miserable hot down here. And how are you going to get a dog ready for an event like that? I mean, what our theory is, let's just keep hunting them. The minute they get hot, let's find a hunt to go to.
I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I just hunt all summer. I just keep hunting, And sure, you get frustrated. It was bad, hot, and dry here. It ain't rained forever, So it would have probably been smart to lay up. Yeah. But I ain't real smart. I like to hunt. Yeah. I don't sit around the house real well. I'm a little bit ADD, a little sketchy, The boys, they always accuse me of being on the high-speed chicken feed, but there's nothing that could be further from the truth. But I'm a little high-strung,
Well, that's good, though, if you want to keep a dog in shape.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes, we just keep grinding, and I don't know that we make progress, but whatever.
What about, do you have like a program that you use when you're just starting a pup? Do you have, because, I kind of do the same thing anymore with just about every pup I start.
I do, too. Everything's pretty much same kind of time. Obviously, some start slower than others, and as long as I'm seeing some of the things that I like, right or wrong, as long as there's some of the things that I like, and like I'm thinking about the end goal, can this dog get to where I want to get? And like I told you earlier tonight, I don't know how many puppies I've started since Trixie was a 1-year-old. Yeah. At least 10 to 12. Yeah. And there's not one of them at my house, you know. And some of them were decent dogs, right? Like I sold some of them for decent money, but they're just dogs that didn't suit me. I wanted a dog's gonna have to kind of be like my personality. He's gonna have to kind of get involved pretty quick, or he ain't staying.
What you said that now that Trixie's in the hunts and you're seeing what it takes to win, and she showed you that, and so I assume the bar's been raised since her too. Yeah, and that's going to affect the amount of pups that you keep and sell.
Is that a good thing?
I think it is.
Well, if you want to win, and we want winners, I like the guy handling the dog. You know what I'm saying? I think Justin does a great job.
No, Justin does a good job. He got mad at me a couple times a couple weeks ago, but other than that,
he. I asked him the other night. I guess you judged in 3 nights. I'm like, you get struck for more than a quarter? Ah, damn, Josh, he knows her.
No, he did. I think he did strike for 50 one time, and pretty sure there was 2 dogs that sounded a lot alike. I don't think it was her, but it wasn't enough to minus either. But you look at that, and Trixie's done all this winning, and did you have anything before Trixie that maybe had those traits and you just didn't realize, what you had at the time?
Yeah. I didn't. It was, you remember let me think a minute, I can't remember the name of the show, anyway, the point of the story of the guy he was rehabbing bad horses, and the gal come up to him. She said, I heard you help people with horse problems. He said, no, I help horses with people problems. and most of the, and I still make a lot of mistakes. I get a little heavy-handed at times, but I don't know. There's no right, to me. There's just no right or wrong way, Josh.
Well, every dog's different too.
Yeah, and you ask about the other dogs. Sure, the Ree dog was probably could have been a big winner. She's not a better coon dog than Trixie, but she was an automatic strike dog, so you could get struck pretty good.
Was she good about being alone too, or did she like to be in a crowd?
Well, she would gather up with them a little bit. And she's one of those that she'd, get part of yours and all of
Yeah.
hers, and even now, I think we talked about that a little bit tonight too.
Yeah.
My mind's kind of changing on that. I want a dog to be by themselves just because I'm a little slow, so
Yeah.
it makes it a little easier for me to make those calls. But I'm not sure the way country's shrinking, hunts are shorter. I don't know. It might not be a bad idea to have one that might party a little bit.
No, and I agree. And we've lost some hunts here lately because the dog didn't want to get treed in a crowd out of the truck and misses. Even if they're not first, they're missing in on 7,500, 125 points right there. And you end up losing that cast by a quarter when it's all over, said and done with, too.
I don't like winning that way, but I've won a lot of casts with the Reed dog. She would dang sure go in and get a quarter of your tree, you know. She'd tree her own, too. She didn't need any help, but back then I didn't know about doing the things that you could help a dog solve some of that, you know.
And I mean, sometimes I think we get to solving too many problems at once with these dogs, and we're ended up creating more too.
Well, that goes without saying, I remember when Trixie was pretty young, and she had a little bit of an issue of listening.
Yeah.
And I never forget Travis Tate. He told me, he said, "Man, leave her alone." But I wouldn't. Yeah. And I didn't. But I also found myself at a point about a year ago where I had her so sour. She hated me. She hated hunting. Yeah. She hated everything. Yeah. So now Justin will take her. He'll dump her on a hog. Just run something, have fun, So
them trader dogs love them hogs. They all do. Well, I ain't seen one that didn't yet.
We got plenty of them here. So.
Yeah, that's a fact. So one thing I did want to ask you, when you got this new pup off Jed, one thing about being a good pup man is you never have a hard time finding another pup when you're ready. Yeah. I mean, people will give them to you because they know that they're going to get a fair shake, and that's not common. We don't. Everyone says, "Why your pups are so high? Why your pups are so high?" I'm like, well, if I found a good pup man, it would be a lot cheaper. Matter of fact, it'd be free. Yeah. So what are you looking for in them baby pups? You get an 8, 9, 10-week-old puppy. What are some of the traits that you have to have and that you can recognize immediately, and what are some that are an absolute no-go?
Well, timid, I'm out. Yeah. And I'm not saying some of them dogs won't make it in some people's world, but I had a good friend in New Mexico, a horseshoer at the racetrack. Jody Roberts, his name. His daddy's name was Doyle Roberts. He won 1 million thoroughbred horse races. He's dead and gone now. Was a great man, great horse trainer, but he never made the upper echelon. But I asked him one day, I said, what is the difference in a class horse and a good horse? He said a class horse can take the training. A good horse can't. Yeah. A cheap horse can't take it. A dog, in my world, has to be able to take a little bit of training. And I'm not going to whip on one a lot, but I want them to operate, the way I want them to operate.
What about traits you got to have?
Just hustle.
Yeah.
The number one hustle. Like I got a sister to Bonnie right now, Justin and I do, that she's real accurate. She is just flies through the country, but she stays on the ground forever. And that's one trait that I don't like, but she's young and hopefully she can grow out of that. But I know that breeding, so I'm not sure that she will.
She may be like that forever. You never know. But Bonnie can light the scoreboard up sometimes. And I've seen her stay on the ground a little bit too long every now and then. There's my healer barking or something. Bogan, shut up.
Well, I'll tell you, I met Zach, during the shootout. Yeah. I guided that cast, Strickland with Apollo. Chad Doolin was hunting Chris's ring dog, and then Wyatt Monin had the hawk dog, and Bonnie. Yeah. And Bonnie probably should have won that cast at night. She just got out of hearing. Yeah.
No, Bonnie's a good dog. I've seen Bonnie just tree the fire out of coons, and I've seen Bonnie when you really needed to make a tree. One thing, like the night Kurt got in the finals of the truck hunt, the Pro Sport truck hunt, Bonnie was right there neck and neck with him all night, him and Whitey. But at the end of that cast, the wind was blowing real hard, and he had to cut, to be able to hear her again, he had to cut her right at Whitey. Yeah. And she wasn't having any of it.
Yeah, no, I'm going the other way.
No, she turned around, went straight behind us, and out of pocket.
So I like that trait about this puppy. She wants to be by herself. Yeah. She hustles good. she don't make a lot of trees yet. She's 18 months old,
Yeah.
16, 18 months old. But when she does make them, they're got raccoons in them. So
Do you think she's going to come out of that and make more trees?
man, I don't know. I'm hoping so because I really like her.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing because if I
Yeah.
don't like them, they don't stay. So
Right.
she'll stay a while.
It's one thing. It's just like this little pup I hunted tonight. I like her. You know, I've liked her since she was. And you know, I don't keep females, but at 6, 7 weeks old, when I'm watching that litter and I see how bold she is and how gamey she is and all this stuff, and I liked her looks and her mouth, of course, too. But I mean, just when you like one, you're gonna give it that extra shake.
Yeah. And I think you and I had this discussion that too. You know, Jed sent me a. How you was with him that day? I met you out there at Woody's.
Mm-hmm.
He unloads this dog. It weighed about 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Big slobber mouth,
Yeah.
hammerhead, no handle.
Yeah.
I really do like to raise my pups. Like I said, I got Trixie when she was 4 months old, but
Yeah.
I like to raise them from
Yeah.
baby puppies, really.
The Truth on the Houndsman XP Podcast Network is proud to partner with Cajun Lights. Cajun Lights can outfit all of your hunting light needs, everything from the high-quality Rougarou, super bright, super versatile. They've got a Bayou, which is a mid-range price light, and then one of my personal favorites is the Micro Gator. I use that for big game hunting, finding tracks, just general use. If I need a light on my head, I'm grabbing my Micro Gator. I've looked for bear tracks in that thing, lion tracks, cat tracks, coon hunted with it, hog hunted with it at night. I've even used it to work on the plumbing in the house. Super bright, super dependable. Everything that LW sells down there is high quality, and the customer service is second to none. Every week I'm getting notifications that they're adding new items to their store. They've got briar-proof clothing coming out. They got a jacket out right now that's really nice. I put the best through the paces this last bear season and coon season. Couldn't be happier with that. I can't find anything there that I don't like, and I like dealing with LW Nixon and Cajun Lights. So check them out. You can go to houndsmanxp.com. You can follow that link to Cajun Lights right from our website. Check them out, folks.
Like right now at my house, I got a Legs puppy out of Billy Schuler's female.
Yeah.
And then I got a Mason Seaman puppy out of Tom Frost's female.
Yeah.
And I like both of them puppies. You know, you start learning them things around the yard, you know, little things that they do that you like or you might not like. But I like both them puppies, so if I like them, they got a chance.
Yeah.
At least they'll get hunted, you know.
What about letting them run loose? You
I
big,
do,
you a
yeah.
big proponent of that?
Yeah. Like the dog Jed sent down, boy that works for me, I pay him to
Yeah.
just. I told him don't even pay it any attention, just let it run. Deer, I don't care what it does. I just want it to do something, you
Yeah.
know. And report back is that it's doing pretty good.
Good.
Yeah, but I do. You know, when I listen to Kurt's podcast that you did with him, you know, I mean, it sounds like that's the ideal with them dogs. Like I can't just let them run
Yeah.
loose forever like that. The dog that Jed sent me, the puppy that Jed sent me, it is running loose like that. But even
Yeah.
at my house, they get loose quite a bit.
Because I know I want them to run loose because it takes so much little things out. You keep a dog in a pen, you keep it in the yard. I'm fixing to turn that one loose in the highway. But you keep it in a pen, you keep it in the yard, and little things, crossing fences, crossing creeks, little stuff like that, they don't know none of that.
Yeah.
And so I am a proponent of letting them run loose, but also they get a lot of bad habits. You know, and it's always something you could fix, you know, but I like to, like I open my puppy pen at night when they're babies, and then I put them back in the morning, and I'll do that quite a bit. Jeremy's got the big running pen. I'll let them loose out there for a little bit, but I kind of like to be with them when they're loose.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't mind them being a little trashy.
Yeah.
You know, those dogs will usually do something. Mm-hmm. It's the ones that don't want to do anything that not going to be around very long.
Bogan, hush. Speaking of not being around very long, anybody want to buy a red heeler? I may have one for sale. He's in the crate next to us and bugging us about something. But no, puppy training, because you look at him, he's sitting here right next to us, bird dogs, retrievers, all that stuff. We're looking at him the whole time. a hound is the hardest, especially, and I don't have enough experience with the big game hounds, but a dog that's meant to just track and tree raccoons has got to be one of the most difficult things in the world to train.
To this day, it still fascinates me.
Yeah.
When I was 13, I think was the first time I ever went coon hunting with a dog. And at 13 years old, it fascinated me that a dog could smell where a coon put his foot and figure out what tree he went to.
Yeah.
It's just, and to this day, I'm 54 years old now. And it's still, I never got tired of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the reasons that you like to train pups is because your love of the sport, obviously. And we were talking tonight as we was walking out. And, I pointed at that little female. I said, "There's what I like. That's what I like messing with. Sure, going and competing at these hunts is fun. Going to cover them, going to do podcasts like we're doing right now. All that stuff's cool. But there's nothing like raising a baby puppy from a weaned pup to tree and coons.
And to see them start to get it, and when the light goes on.
Yeah, I wish that light would go on faster.
Well,
sometimes.
sure we do. And you and I, we know that we quit a lot of them too soon. That I don't know. I gotta see quite a bit pretty quick.
Yeah, we talked
12,
about that.
14 months old. I better be seeing quite a bit, or they're not going to be around very long.
Do you want them? Because I told you, I said, look, if they ain't run, you're like me, we start our pups early.
Yeah.
That female's just turned 6 months old. She's in the woods. I was really excited about how she was a little gamey and she didn't like a coon and she was good. And she didn't go hunting as good as I thought she might, but I'm not too disappointed about that. But, when you watch them grow up and you watch them do all that stuff, there's a little something extra special about taking that dog to a hunt too.
Sure.
It's not like when Jed just hands me the keys to rain or scent or something like that. That's fun too, but it's not like doing it with your own pup.
Well, it's just rewarding.
Yeah.
There's something in the inside of a man that primitive, maybe, is that the right word? It's something wired in us.
Yeah.
We're not real smart, right?
No.
We're walking around in the dark.
Our wires are crossed is what they are.
We choose to spend our free time walking around in the dark like we're real bright, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. It's rewarding. It's some kind of payback. I don't know. It's just I've always been a pretty simple person. It don't take a lot to please me. I don't take a lot out of life. I don't need a lot. A few more better dogs might not be a bad deal, but hey, we're looking for them. We're trying to get there.
Hey, why coonhounds? Why not bird dogs or stock dogs?
I think if we had quail in our country, when I grew up, when I was a little boy, in this country we had quail. My daddy had English pointers, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But the quail are gone from this country. Yeah. Fire ants, predators,
hogs,
and I just think urbanization. It's a lot of rural. Even here, it's getting harder and harder. Hunting country is getting harder and harder. So I don't know. I love a hound. I love to listen to a hound. You and I talked about it tonight. The worst thing about the trader dogs, they're boring to hunt. Trixie bores me to death.
Yeah.
Sure, she trees a lot of coons, but 2 barks on a tree and that's it.
Yeah.
I like to hear I love that pup. That wipeout pup. She's fun to listen to. You know.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes a little too much listening to, but
I know Trixie's first tree, she gave 10, 12 ground barks.
Yeah, but the coon that she treed, what was she, 3/4 when she finally got treed?
Yeah, that wasn't the one that she opened on first.
No.
But you told me, you're like, Justin's been saying she was giving a little more ground mouth that night at that cast, and I thought, it dawned on me then. I'm like, when that's a little too much ground mouth than you're used to, them dogs are pretty tight.
No, she's tight. Yeah, she's tight.
But no, it's not. And she's a prototypical trader dog. She's got the big mouth, the big locate. She don't use it much on the ground. She floated in there. She treated a couple coons. She looked pretty good. Trixie didn't make no mistakes tonight.
No. She's a nice hound. Especially pleasure hunting. She's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Other than not barking a lot, she's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
She don't like to go to the hunts. She'd rather not ever go to another one. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
She don't like it.
How do we, that's one of the myths one of the things that I just can't get figured out is how to bring these stale dogs back into how to keep them from getting stale.
I'd love to sit down with Casey and hear how he does it because he does it as well as anybody.
Yeah.
But like I said, I hadn't been around forever. But Meltdown was
Ruby.
Ruby.
Yeah. Meltdown and Ruby, though, I think. Ruby don't get hardly pleasure hunted. there's some dogs that I think Meltdown was one of them, that just thrive in a cast environment and enjoy that part of it more than all the other stuff.
I'm just trying to think of dogs that careers were really peaked out for a long period of time.
We look at Bone Collector, one late in his career, but there's not a lot. There's most of them by the time they're 5 years old, 6 years old, they're starting to kind of fall off a little bit, and then especially the trader line is notorious for that. Other than the females, usually the females are okay. The males are all train wrecked by the time they're 4.
I have had that thought a lot lately. Is it a genetic thing? That because I've listened to a lot of your podcasts with Jed, visited with Jed a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of them dogs, they burst on the sea and they do a lot of winning, and then they're just kind of done. I guess Rain maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, Rain sent Bella. Those are the 3 females right there. But as far as winning late in your career on the male side, there aren't any. I mean, Dempsey maybe could have done some damage a little later in his career, but he didn't get hauled much late. But they're just not. They get a little rough, they get a little stale, they get a little sour, and a lot of it is how Jed. At that time, Jed would just pick one and ride it till it died, and then jump on his backup horse. And that was just the way we done it back then. We had so many of them that could win at any point that we just ran through them all.
And I'm not sure it's not a good plan, especially like looking back now on her.
Yeah.
Mitchum, he always asks me, when you gonna take her? When you gonna take her? Like all them guys come over and hunt with me, Joe. And that dog was training lots of coons, like lots of coons. And my mindset was like, I'm gonna protect her young, and I'm gonna have all these years till she's 7 years old to be really good.
I made the same mistake
just
with Con.
Wasn't the case,
I made that mistake with Con. I made it with Duds too. I've come to the conclusion now that from now on, the minute they get hot, I'm going to just take them everywhere they can go until they're not hot anymore, and I'm going to get a different one.
Well, I mentioned my father-in-law earlier. I didn't understand it when I was a kid, but his mentality, and he would vocalize this. He's like, hey, when they're running, I'm going to run them.
Yeah.
Like, if you could get 10 outs out of a good 2-year-old, good maturity horse, that'd be a lot, And I never wanted to run mine that many times. I wanted to protect them, not him. He wanted to run them while they're running, then do the surgeries, take the chips out, whatever you needed to do, and then hopefully they'd come back for a 3-year-old.
Yeah. No, and see, Con at 1-year-old could have won at any level. Con at 2-year-old could have won at any level. By 3, he was starting to fall off. By 4, it was hit or miss, and by 5, he was train wreck.
Yeah.
But I babied him. As a 1-year-old, I went just enough to get his 100 one. And I took him out to Super Stakes. I get in the semifinals and lose there. And then I'm not taking him to a bunch of week-long hunts, or I'm not taking him to this. And I'm just going to wait till he's 3 or 4 and good and mature. But then by the time I do that, he's blown up already.
Yeah.
And I think of the money I could have won when he was hot, and Duds was the same way.
Live and learn. If we get another young one doing really good, may hunt her more, I don't know. Just see how it goes.
And I think some of them can just take it.
Yeah.
There's some that can just take it.
Well, what's funny is about the young dog, the little sister to Bonnie, Justin took her off for the first time, and he's like, man, this dog acts like an old dog. She hauls. It's just crazy how intelligent. That's the thing about that dog that I've noticed. She is super intelligent, which not many hounds that I've had lately have been that way.
That's because you've been hunting trainer dogs.
So she's super smart. So, you asked me earlier, do I think some of that stuff will get better in age? I think it will. Yeah. But time will tell, I guess.
The way I see it, if a young dog that is not making a lot of trees really hates a coon and they're really hunting for coons, eventually they start gambling a little bit. I think that's probably the route that dog's probably going to take.
Yeah, and I think she will. I see on some better tracks she can move them a little better, but I guess at the end of the day, hopefully at some point she'll learn what she can tree and what she can't, and just quit messing with them bad tracks.
Yeah, is that what she's doing most of the time when she's on the ground? Is a bad track?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, did it get better when the weather got better?
Yeah.
After it was dry.
Yeah.
Because last time I was down here before you guys got this rain here,
Well,
they were all bad
even at the Lone Star this year, it was still dry.
Yeah.
It was still bad dry.
Yeah.
We're finally getting some rain now. You've seen that tonight.
Yeah.
That slough couldn't hardly get across it.
Yeah, we about got wet.
Yeah.
So, Bobby, what advice would you give? There's a guy out there that he's struggling with a pup, or he just bought a new pup, or he's wanting to get into it. What advice would you give him as far as getting that thing to the finish line?
Lord, man might not have taken any advice from me, Josh. I guess patience in some ways and not patience in other ways. This is what I believe. I believe if they got it and you expose them, I think at some point it'll come out. And if they don't have it, you can whip, cuss, till Jesus comes back, and it ain't gonna matter. No. So, just I think consistency is probably the most important thing that I've seen in what I do. Whether it's right or wrong, I think if you're consistent, I think sometimes dogs overcome us. Most of the times, dog overcomes us. It's just being consistent. That's the number one factor, I think, in starting pups.
And you touched on something, too, that you want to be patient, but not too patient. And that's a fine line between going too far on a dog that's never going to make it versus, and it just takes experience, I think, to see, because just like this little female out here that you got, that littermate sister to Bonnie, you seen something out of her.
Yeah.
And so some people have an eye for that early, and some people it takes a long time to get that. Some people never get it.
Well, I have no doubt that I've quit a lot of them too soon. I have no doubt. But I don't have any regrets about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little ADD, I'm a little high strung, and I kind of like my dogs to be a little bit that way too,
Yeah.
So
I always said, and I can't think, I've never seen one that I didn't like at 8 months old that I did like at 8 years old.
Yeah, right.
I never have to this day. When I'm around a pup and I say, well, I don't really like that pup too much, and it goes on, and 5-6 years down the road and then someone still got it, and I'm like, I still don't like that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was going to say something I probably shouldn't say in the air, but there's a lot of them that probably still shouldn't be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Regardless.
No, I
and
agree.
surely shouldn't be reproducing.
Yeah,
So.
that's a fact.
Anyway.
But no, I appreciate you sitting down, Bobby. You got anything else to add?
Man, I've had a lot of fun coming over here. I've always wanted to come over here to camp.
Yeah.
I've wanted to come hunt over here.
Yeah, and when you told me to drop you a pin, I thought, well, Bobby surely knows where camp is.
Well, I've been next door, and was coming over here with Jed the other day. He was here with his new Fandango friends, a lot of them, and he ended up coming over and hunting with Justin and I. So I'd never been here.
I know you trespassed here one time.
Yeah, I trespassed here, and Jed called me out on it. I was hunting the neighbor over here, and we got over here on Kevin, so we texted him, and he said, sure, go get your dog. And I got a text the next day, what are you doing on my property?
Well, I'll tell you what, Bobby, whether Jed likes it or not, you're welcome here anytime you want to come hunt. I know Kevin wouldn't care either.
I think Kevin would say that as well.
Yeah.
And Jed would too, so we're all good.
Well, I'm renting the place this week, so you got permission this week anyway.
Well, them boys are the weather looks like it's shaping up good. I think the hunt will go off real well for y'all.
Yeah, we got the super hunt. This is going to air, people are going to hear this the night before the super hunt, so... if you're listening to this podcast, go to the Joy YouTube channel for Saturday night, and you're going to get to see 3 of the best dogs on the planet.
I'm taking Scott tomorrow. He called me today, and I'm going to take him. He's going to drop his dog a couple
times. Who's your pick
tomorrow.
for the super hunt?
Man, I don't know. I really don't know. I'd like to watch it. I'm sure it's going to be some coon treeing going on.
I know Echo got a sore foot out in South Carolina, and he's been nursing that. And I know Tyler and Cheyenne are at each other's throats wanting to beat each other. They don't care. They said, I don't care if they get second as long as the other one gets third. So it's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to air Monday night on the Joy YouTube channel, so you guys check that out. But,
good deal.
Yeah. No, Bobby, I appreciate you sitting down.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for bringing a coon dog over for that pup.
I enjoyed the hunt. Always do, and I'm sure it won't be the last time.
All right.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the truth on the Houndsman XP Podcast Network, and we appreciate you listening.